Hey, Woodturners, it's time to buckle up and show us your secret stash of turning blanks. A Lancaster Woodturners Coffee Hour video by John Kelsey.
Ford 150 that is pretty much over to the top of the side rails or the side, filled with, I gotta say, Matthew, there's not one piece there that's green. Would you suggest that everything there is dry?
Absolutely.
And the gentleman that offered it, my understanding is this is a gentleman either in his late 80s or possibly after that. And he's doing what Ted's doing in downsizing. It's here for the club's taking. You know, if you're looking for some quick pieces of some pretty good stuff, I know you found a couple of pieces, Matthew, that almost looked like it was ebony, but it was.
Well, why don't you sell it off as a buck a piece?
That's a great idea. Yeah. Yeah, we could kind of sort it out. Some of the pieces are
I think so.
quite nice. That fair amount are probably 4-inch square, 15 to 8-inch long, and then even wider in diameter. Primarily spindle turning, I would suggest, though there are some that you can make some smaller platters out of.
And there are definitely some round blanks already cut.
Yes. Yeah, there are a number of bowl blanks, or platter or bowl blank sizes as well.
Hey, why don't you make it so that when you take the stuff over, the rest of the stuff over, the equipment over to Ben's shop, we can do the same. Have the wood there, so anybody that helps with the wood can help with the getting the shop stuff over can also come and look at wood.
Most recent were 20 pieces of sugar maple I got from Dillsburg from my brother's place, and it was a big tree in his yard. But whenever you store stuff, I found keep it up on pallets and stuff, to lift it off the ground and air can circulate.
So this stuff has been anchor sealed and everything?
Yeah, it's anchor sealed.
So is this stuff was this stuff anchor sealed as well?
It was all anchor sealed. A lot of this came from up in Williamsport, firewood supplier. He kiln dries firewood. So we got some firewood some years ago from him when we were up at camp. And I asked him about, do you have burls? And he said he can't use the burls to split. So he gave me one. So I came back and I made him a beautiful cherry bowl out of it. He jumped up and down and he says, I'll get you all you want. So this has been here probably 8 years, 10 years. And this stuff here, all kind of, I forget even where I got from up with this stuff, but you get tons of it, and there's some burl stuff in there. A lot of all kinds of different woods. Silver maple. These are old.
What's old?
Right here. This is probably 5-6 years.
Okay.
But they seem to be whole. But you can see there's cracks in some of them. There's some dogwood back in here. So that's that part, and this is my primary stash. But when I first started turning, you collect wood, and I had this thing filled. And in 2005, 15 years, it started pushing on the walls, and I had to repair the walls, bring it back together, and I said, I'm not going to load it up with that much wood anymore. So there's a little bit of everything in here. There's cherry there. Looks like some nice pieces of cherry down in the bottom there.
And how long you had these pieces?
15 years.
15 years.
Yeah, I had and I never really, once I filled it, here's some sycamore, some other big stuff in here. But this is facing south, So this kind of took the heat. These were coated, with anchor seal, but they seem to hold. I'm not sure if that's mulberry, something like that. Here's a nice burl. You got there. The burl. I don't know what half of some of this stuff. Some cherry. And here, this is something I wanted to show you too. This is the famous barrel that I filled it 18 years. It's been in here. I thought it was pretty watertight, but some water got in there. But this is walnut and stuff that I had wrapped. You can feel the weight of it. Yeah. It's super saturated, but it's hard. Yeah. And so this was filled, and I never opened it until a couple weeks ago. All right, this is a method of chainsawing my chunks of wood, and it holds it relatively securely. And all the fastening screws are down low, and you can replace some of the chunks as as it wears out. But I find that most convenient when I'm trying to cut, And
this walnut comes out of the same tree. And I have about 5 other pieces just like this. Now some of them have a little more cracks in them. Most of them you can get, a nice circle out, or you could use that as a table. But this is what it looked like, the center, something like that. But these pieces, and I got about 2 other ones that are close to this size that has that diameter in the center. So I took it over to Martin's chair and had them flatten it. They flattened everything on the CNC router. Then I put a 3/4 inch melamine on the bottom and sealed everything off. Just filled it up with epoxy.
In there.
About 2.5 gallons. And epoxy, of course, this is all end grain, so everything went in as much as because that epoxy, if there's a pinhole, it'll go through, which you can see on the floor. I'll put 3 legs on it. Now it's a 16-inch coffee table.
We just had a session on chainsaw safety.
Yeah.
Here's my chainsaw safety. I should have brought it out. Because of my condition, I still saw.
Okay.
But where I saw is like this. So I bring the pieces on my cookie. And believe it or not, all my weight is off of my inner core now. Yeah. And I can saw wood. I saw wood the other, a couple weeks ago for probably 6 or 8 hours.
Wow.
This is how I stack the green stuff. I'll coat it, stack it, label it, and then I cover it with the tarp. And as you can see, the tarps don't last very long. Usually every other year I replace them. But there's some more Osage orange, and that came from the Conestoga Country Club. I usually leave it lay unless I want something green for at least a year.
Well, here, I have a couple different pieces. Here's a piece from New Mexico.
Oh, yeah?
That's a piece of cottonwood that I brought in from a mission trip. And again, I got permission from the Indians on the reservation, the Navajo. I did return a piece. Everything I get from somebody, I return a piece. And I returned a natural edge bolt from that. But that's a piece of wood. In fact, out there, it's really valued and treasured for the bark on it. If you can look at the bark. Now this is a young piece. The bark will get out maybe 2 inches, and they like to carve the bark. The cherry pieces, again, came from another cherry tree right out front of my property that I had cut down a year ago. Black walnut, that English walnut was grafted on it. In fact, I have a ton. I have an arbor friend who I'll come home at night and there's a pile of wood as large as my lawn tractor out there at night.
Oh, yeah?
Crazy. This is one of my stashes. A lot of historical wood, as you can see, black walnut from the James Buchanan Mansion. I did not date them when I got them. That's been about a year ago. Norway maple from the Stauffer Mansion. Blue beech from the Conservancy, the Lancaster Conservancy. Red maple again from Wheatland. Red elm from Wheatland. As soon as I get it, I anchor seal. You'll see my pile out back.
Yeah.
I anchor seal it. I put it under a couple tarps. And then when I cut bowl blanks, I anchor seal it again.
Okay.
As you can see, I don't turn these daily. So I'll tell you what's interesting. I found one wood, and this is dogwood. And this came from Bill Tatowski up in Harrisburg from the Blue Star Highway project. That's a piece that's left over yet. I did return 2 pieces to him. But you'll notice this has been anchor sealed twice on the end grain, but you'll notice how it checks. And I found that dogwood does that. Here's another interesting piece. I got this from Martin called me and Bob Good and I to go down to Pine Street, North Pine Street in Lancaster. He said, there's a piece of wood down here. I think the tree came from the Ukraine at one time. This is Carpathian walnut. At one time, an ambassador to Ukraine lived there. And the tree was, oh my, the tree was probably 40 inches in diameter. And Martin had cut it. And his supposition was that he had put a seed in his pocket and brought it back from Ukraine and planted it. And that was the result. But it's gorgeous wood, and it turns really, real nicely. One of the last pieces that of the walnut tree from the James Buchanan Mansion.
So how do you decide which piece to turn next for crying out loud? Look at this, it's all looks beautiful.
I just come out and just pick a piece usually. And if I get tired of doing natural edge bowls, I'll do platters or whatever. I don't turn it to sell it. I just turn it for people. And if people want it,
Yeah.
and usually that's how I turn. You know, if somebody says, you know, I'd like a bowl of whatever, or I'd like a platter, I'd like whatever, a box, whatever.
Yeah.
I'll come out and just get a piece. These are some of the pieces that are ready to be turned. I usually bring them in and get them acclimated, and because it, you know, fall now and winter coming, I really am cognizant of the moisture level in the shop, and during the summer I air condition it, during the winter I heat it, and I'd like the moisture content to be between 50 and no higher than 60. This piece right here is a piece of Granny Smith, an apple. A friend of mine called me one morning and said, hey, I'm clearing out my apple orchard. I got some wood here. He's a wood turner also. I got some wood that you might be interested in.
It's a big apple tree.
That's for sure.
These are going to be platters. Yeah. Some are going to be bowls, but you'll notice what I like to turn them with a screw in the chuck, so I can turn the foot on it real quickly, and that works pretty well. I built this grinder base, And this is where I store my wood for my Christmas ornaments that I make. Some of the wood, as you can see, James Buchanan, magnolia from James Buchanan, the Stauffer Mansion. There's several different historical things in here, but pieces for bodies, pieces for finials. I try to turn every day.
And this is you in the corner here.
This is my bench in here. I got some of the wood I got from the trip out to New Holland. I got for there, and I got other wood stashed underneath in boxes. Some of my exotic imported wood is in the box there, different materials. That's some of the cherry I got from up on by Barry's place there, Blossom Hill. And then this is some of the spalted maple we got over in New Holland Pike. Here's the other natural edge. Do you have a place in here, Bob?
Yeah, down below.
Oh yeah.
And this is everybody's?
No, these shelves here have names on them. They're individuals. The rest of the stuff along here is all general shop use.
Whose big round is this?
That's Martin.
That's Martin's. He's coming tomorrow to pick that up. Yeah, that's a slab cut of red elm. He had it in the barn down there. He asked me to bring it up and refinish it. I sanded it and planed it and got it.
Table.
I want to show you this. I don't know whose these are.
Redwood.
Is that redwood?
Sure looks like it to me. I
Or
got
mesquite?
one.
Came from out west.
I got a piece of that at home. It's a redwood root from the redwood tree.
Okay. I'm gonna make a table legs for that.
Yeah.
Here we got hackberry.
You know, get the woods out back here, it's full of hackberry. I mean, some stuff gets big.
Yeah, we've got some big hackberries out back.
Rough wood.
It's got that unique bark to it. It's really some of the cores that I take out and corners that I cut off of blanks. I had a bow blank, got a 13.5-inch bowl out of it. It was pretty thick, so I thought I'm going to take a slice off of there and let it sit here. Now it's cracking. But I think
It's got the pith in there.
yeah, it does. But I think I'm going to put some butterflies across here and then turn a platter and see what I get. But I put butterflies on furniture, and I made them deep. I made my own butterflies and everything, and I made them about an inch deep. And I think I'll do that and then turn it and see what I get. Otherwise, I could get 2 small ones out of here, but I'm going to try to get a big one.
Cool.
But what I'll do is I'll cut a log section of some dimension. And what I'll do is I'll take anchor seal and tin foil on the end grain. So I'll slobber the anchor seal on the end grain. While the anchor seal is still wet, I'll lay over a piece of tin foil. And then I tape it in place, because generally these are stored outside.
So how anchor seal brand or any water soluble log wax?
I use anchor seal because that's what we had at the time, and I bought a 5-gallon unit.
Sure. So do you slather it on thick?
Slathered on thick.
And you don't do anything on the face grain, just on the around the perimeter of a cross grain bowl blank.
Yeah.
Got it.
And if it's a log length, it's just the 2 ends. And that piece, I believe, came from Rhode Island. So that makes it stored 7 to 10 years.
Uh-huh.
So it sticks. This piece here was handled a little bit differently. This is ambrosia maple. This was cut in Connecticut. It was slathered all around with anchor seal, stuffed in a paper bag with its own shavings. This is 20 years old. So once it gets to, you can see that it's already moved. I think, can you?
Oh yeah, sure.
So it's stable now, but I haven't gotten the chance to turn it.
So are you always doing that, turning a rough and then doing a finished turning later?
Yeah, usually.
Yeah.
The only time I don't rough turn is when I'm turning natural edges, because I don't care where the natural edge goes. But I don't. My preference is a nice flat edge on the top of a turn bowl. This is also a piece of cherry. I'm not sure where this came from. I think it might have come from here. I don't remember. I usually put a date on it.
So why the tin foil? And could you use plastic instead?
You could. Tin foil is for sure nothing's going through it. Okay, all over here are bowl blanks that I took from Rhode Island. So some of them are 15, 20 years old. This one is dated 2005. This piece of madrone on the lathe came to me wrapped in a plastic trash bag, and I made the mistake of thinking that it would be okay to leave it here in the bag, but if you can see around this side, it's cracked up pretty good.
So it had nothing on it, but it was in the trash bag.
That's right, it was raw and in the trash bag.
So the plastic on it now, you put that on, or it?
Yeah, this I put on I just mounted it a couple of days ago, and my idea was to rough turn it and get it into a paper bag with shavings and get it to try to stabilize. But madrone is notoriously cracky. It moves tremendous amounts. And, this is also a piece of madrone burl. This is a piece that was wrapped in plastic when it was very green, and it got all moldy like that.
Like that one. Yeah.
Like that one. And I just cleaned off the mold the other day.
Well, now what did you clean that off with?
I didn't put any anchor seal. I just wrapped it back up because I want to turn this right away. Because what I'm after in madrone is I want all that movement and all those odd shapes that you get with madrone.
So you're going to turn that green and let it go from there.
It's still wet. It's not green anymore because it's been a while.
Over here. Here's
All
some
of
more
these
over
burls
there.
here, these are all black ash.
And how'd you get those?
I buy those.
And then do they come to you wrapped up like that?
No, they'll usually come wrapped in corrugated cardboard, and the fellow will wrap the corrugated cardboard with packing tape. And I usually leave it like that for a time because it'll stabilize. All of these big burls underneath here came that way. And I didn't do anything special other than leave them alone to let them normalize. And then the ash is one of those woods, whether it's burl or straight grain, it dries pretty evenly and quickly. Does it make it? Here's one of those burls that came to me green. I just set it aside.
And nothing, it is just stabilized all by itself.
Yeah.
You would never put anchor seal on that because you don't want it down in the burly bits.
Yeah, I want the natural edge.
Yeah.
What about? It looks like a nice piece of burl. This is the way I got it from him. And I haven't decided what to do with it yet. I'm thinking it's going to be a bowl with two handles, or at least one handle. But that's on the list of things to do as well. Okay. So this is a piece of pin oak. It was cut, I don't know where the grain is here. The pith is here. So the log was halved, just set aside, and just threw it under the lathe. When I turned that bowl, I said, gee, that pin oak is pretty nice. I cut it into
It's a red oak, isn't it?
It is a red oak.
Yeah.
I cut it into an octagon and wrapped it in plastic and said I want to save that. So here's a piece of pin oak, I believe, that I put in the shavings in a brown paper bag. With nothing on it. Yeah, this is rough turned.
And how long do you think it's going to sit in the bag before you return it?
I won't return it until late winter, early spring.
So do you date the bag so you know?
I used to, yeah.
No, you don't care.
No, well, this particular piece is not a really great piece because it's got some spalting on it.
Yeah.
It's already started to rot.
Yeah.
So there's a little bit of punky areas. You can see the grain on the inside.
What are you going to do with those punky areas?
Well, I'll just stabilize them with super glue. Here's another piece of pin oak which would have benefited from anchor seal. And there's the date. It's still solid wood, but it's gotten all moldy. So I don't know if it'll be any good when I turn it, but I'll turn the mold off and see what's underneath. If it's decent, I'll continue. If not, it's one of those things that goes to the club. Here's a couple other pieces of pin oak. Now these were cut out of pretty big logs. So you can see, cut like that, just a little bit of end grain sealer, and it stayed in good shape.
So there's nothing on it except painted the end grain.
Yep. Just one size. This one had nothing on it. So I got a little bit of checking on that end, but nothing on this end.
Okay, now where are you storing these? Just right in here?
Right here, yeah.
Yeah, anywhere you can put them.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah.
Pretty much.
I want to take you to places where I have wood. I've got world-class wood out there. I have wood that are giant flitches from a beech tree that was cut 12 years or so ago in the backyard of the Demuth Tobacco Shop on East King Street. And they've been sitting in this barn all these years. This is red elm from the backyard of James Buchanan's Wheaton. It was cut about 10 or 12 years ago, and I salvaged the crotches and the many interesting turning blanks, all red elm. Each one of these pieces is worth over $1,000. This is beech from the backyard of the Demuth Tobacco Shop. Look at the grain in that stuff. You don't get that. And that tree was over 100 years old. The key to most of it is having the knowledge and the ability and the willingness to work on wood that's tough. And I don't know what somebody would do with those two knot holes, but they fascinate me.
A lot of this stuff that I've accumulated over the years, I know I'm never going to get to. So this stuff has been here it came from E-Town. This is English walnut. Got this from the funeral home that I work for up there. I guess it was like 2010. I think that's when the tree came down and I went up with the chainsaw. But it's got some beautiful grain. And English walnut's one of my favorite turning woods. I like it. I prefer it much better than black walnut. Black walnut, the dust just gets to me. This is just nice, clean turning wood. So all that's English walnut. I think this is a piece of pecan that Keith Lauterbaugh gave me. I'm pretty sure it's been sitting under the stairs for a long time. I hadn't got to it yet, obviously. But I think it's pecan. This is a really nice piece of wild cherry, according to Martin Stolpe, our naturalist. And we got this at the Baker campus, and that's over by F&M.
Did you anchor seal it right away, or on all sides, or is it just?
I didn't touch this, so
that's just
let it go, and it stay good.
Okay.
And then you see, I was going to make a big platter out of it. And that's not. I thought that was a check, but it's really not. So that's just a nice, beautiful piece of cherry. Let's see what that would be.
I'm going to guess 20 inches. I'm right.
You got it. You got it. 20, right?
And now I'll ask the question: what size is the maximum diameter you can do on the power
on the inboard like that? 20 inches. So anyway, it's a nice piece of cherry. Doug Reeser gave me a couple pieces of maple over the years, and I haven't gotten to it yet. And unfortunately, it has some checks in it. but you can still get some nice smaller stuff out of it. This, just by looking at it, you know, it was a fence post, but it's aromatic cedar.
Oh, yeah.
And I turned some boxes out of it. It's really beautiful, beautiful stuff. Odd piece of honey locust here. I forget where I got that one from. Last piece of sugar maple, that little guy down here, that came from a tree in Rohrstown. And sugar maple is very, very hard. That's what they make bowling alleys out of. And I've used all of it up, but that's the last little piece I have. This guy down here is spalted beech, I think, from Lancaster Valley. I never got to that one yet either. Piece of ash, American beech, sycamore, and silver maple. This is a ugly burl that someone wanted done, but then COVID came along and stopped that process. It's got some good fungi growing on it by now. Yeah, Crimson King Maple. I forget who gave it to me. I've had it for a while, but I've made 3 or 4 bowls out of it for a lady, and she didn't want any more, so I kept a couple pieces. I'm not quite sure what these guys are here. It's just some odd pieces that came to me by whatever means, I'm not sure. I think this is a big piece of sycamore in here. And just some blocks. I have all kinds of boxes of blocks that are ready to go for things like boxes and small stuff. Yeah, I just kind of cut them ahead of time, and they're actually next door in the garage.
Do you want to pull the tarp off so we can see what's under the tarp?
It's going to be dusty.
Well,
We're going to make a mess, but I don't know if I know there's a lot of cherry in there, and some sycamore. Yeah, cherry, I'm not sure. Some of this stuff I'm not sure, but some of the stuff that's in block form, that's a nice piece of cherry. That would be nice for a vase or a couple of boxes. So, as you can see, there's too much stuff in this whole garage, but my shop partner has quite a few interests and stuff that he thinks he will make out of things, and he may or may not get to it, but some of his wood is right here, and I think some of it is persimmon. I think it's holly as well. But I have this honey locust down here, and they came from Indian Steps over in York.
oh yeah.
Okay, we took one of the friends of mine took a tree down over there, and he offered me some of it, so I took it. I really like honey locust, or yellow locust, and also black locust. Nice turning stuff. Let's just get a few pieces here. American, can you read that, Doug? I'm not sure what American something.
Chestnut.
Chestnut, okay. That looks like a piece of English walnut again. That's English walnut.
Yeah.
Let's see. Okay. Just an assorted box of things. Purple Heart. Okay. That might be Pocody, I think.
Coca-Cola?
Coca-Cola, maybe. Could be. Very, very dense. It's just little things. Not sure what that one is. That's another piece of Purple Heart. Yeah, it just looks like a maple to me, some kind of a maple. But the old way of turning things is just to put a waste blank fluid right onto your piece, base plate attached in here, bring a tailstock up. I think the woodchuck is probably the biggest advantage to Woodturners in the last 20 years.
So you're saying
metalworking has always had chucks.
I was going to say, you're saying that piece has been sitting around for more than 20 years is what you're saying.
That's what I'm saying. That's it. There's more to life than wood turning, but wood turning life is pretty good.
Wood shop. Thank God for wood.